So on behalf of Concordia University, I want to thank everyone for coming. We've got a brief introduction, and then we will turn it over to the panelists. From the panelists, we'll go into the circles of influence. So this is probably, what is it, Kim, our fifth year, fourth year? At least, right? 4 or 5 years that we've been doing this now, where we hold the sessions to help you understand how to look at your value in the marketplace, and then also to understand best where you see yourself going on that journey. As we look at it, with the Network of Executive Women, we're so proud to have the relationship with them. It's just been one that's been phenomenal for us. They're always here and offer us a lot of opportunities to be able to network, to talk, and to mentor with each other. So we appreciate that. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl Chapman. Dr. Chapman is our Executive Vice President and Dean of Diversity, if she would say a few words to welcome our guests. And I know I saw her in the very bright outfit. Here we go. And please be careful stepping up.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Oh, we're almost at evening now. Good evening. How many of you like to hear good news? I would think everybody likes good news, right? Well, I have good news for you. You're at the right place at the right time. It was meant for you to be here. And I want to tell you why. It's good news because you're about to find out how to advance, grow, transform places, businesses, and how to be transformed. This is what this event and this organization NEW is about. That's their mission, helping you in whatever area, whether it's education, leadership, business development. So the good news is that you're going to get news from NEW. I want you to be sure you understand what you're about to experience tonight. This event, as she mentioned, 3rd or 4th year, over 100 students have participated and have gotten results. Some have led to internships and jobs, and just good people to know. People that you can be influenced by, encouraged by, motivated by. And this organization NEW, over 20,000 people have attended the national conferences. Now, if that many people are showing up, what does that tell you? Somebody knows what they're doing, is that right? Somebody has figured it out. There's some people who get it, and they're trying to share with you what they've gotten, what they've learned through their experiences, how to help you to be all you can be, if we want to steal from the Army. Got some military people here, hey, be all you can be. That's what they're striving to do. Are you feeling excited yet? When I went on the website, when I read about what the organization NEW, and I know what the College of Business does here, when I see all of the accomplishments, when I see all of the impact and how lives have changed and been influenced, I get excited. So tonight, we want you to get excited about being here. We want to thank especially our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us, for the mentors and all of the students, everyone participating in the program. Isn't it great to be among such intelligent, successful, supportive, caring women? Does that feel good? Yeah, all right. And to also be able to learn about how these organizations have been so industrious and successful and trend-setting. This evening is about you. This has been planned just for you. And I also want to acknowledge all of the planners and presenters, and I want to give a special shout out to Christine, Codelco for all that she does in getting this together. This takes more than a couple of hours, right? She starts way in advance, lining things up, trying to get things just right, getting the right people here. And guess why she does it? Just for you. Do you feel special? You should feel special. We think you're special. We're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. I do want you to feel welcome. I want you to open up those minds, those ears, and your eyes, and just take in all that you can. Because these women are about to share a lot of information with you. They're going to share knowledge. They're going to share about power, about actions that must be taken, and about their success. So, you're in for a treat. Is that good news? Oh, you all a quiet group. Is that good news? Yes. And you are good news. I hope you're feeling welcome, and by the end of it, you're going to feel blessed. Have a good evening.
You know, there's good news and bad news about being up on the stage. The good news is I get to be taller. The bad news is, at my age, the last thing you want is all these lights shining at you. So I'm not quite sure what that means. But Dr. Chapman, thank you so very much. That was a warm, wonderful welcome. And one of the things that you pointed out is just how much mentoring, sponsorship, and coaching means to all of us. And that ability to be able to take on the opportunity to meet with people who can really make it happen for you. I want to do a shout out to a couple of people who are here. We have our student greeters, Laura, Sarah, and Nancy, and then our student moderators who will come up on stage in a little while. But we have Deanna, who's an MBA student in the cohort system, just about ready to graduate. And then we also have Angela Lindner, an accounting major, and Hillary Minart. And I'm going to ask two people in particular to stand up. Hillary and Nancy, if you could. Nancy, where'd you go? There she is. What happened to you people last week?
We competed in a national marketing competition for the Lutheran Church Extension Fund in St. Louis, and we competed against 7 other Concordias from across the nation, and we got first place.
How about that, huh? I'm not sure if anyone else from the team is here, but congratulations to all of you. I'd like to thank Dr. Lamont for coming, Dr. Hall, our dean, as well as a lot of my colleagues who helped put this on and really make it special. I've had the opportunity to work with so many individuals to have this truly work out that it's just been a great way for us to share this experience with you. With that, I'd like to move into a couple areas before I introduce my partner in crime here. It's Joy Simonson. Joy, if you could come up, we'll let you at least say hi for a minute. Come on stage.
I'm not sure if I even need the mic with my voice, but we welcome all of you. The weather is fantastic out there. We chose a great day, maybe, for all of you to be inside. We'll try to get you out by 8 o'clock, and we're really excited about this evening to talk about transformation, but also to talk about our industry. So New really represents the consumer packaged goods industry, which is about manufacturing, distributing, and selling products. So as you're in your undergrad and graduate, if you have any questions during the sessions, please reach out to any one of us. We'd be glad to share on why we love our industry.
I like to say if you can buy it at Target, use it at Target.
Absolutely.
It's good to go, okay? What do you think of that? It's a Harvard Business Review that just came out, and it talks about networking making people feel not so good. And part of that is because we think of it as kind of schmoozing up to people. The reality is I watched Jill McCarthy, one of our panelists, last week do a skit on it. That's not what networking is about. Networking is about the ability to relate to people, to pull it together, and to find opportunities to connect. So make sure you take that time. And by the way, if you can't hear, we also have a 4-month-old here. And Brooke. Her name is Brooke, right?
We're starting her early, right?
Yeah, start early.
All right.
At Concordia. So what we want you to do is to start to be comfortable with networking. Networking is what you have to do. Make connections. Bring it alive for yourself. That's how you're going to make things happen. The doors are beginning to open for you. And Dr. Chapman talked about this is for you. Make sure you remember that. It's about the opportunity for Quaymar, for Laura, for all of you to really understand what you can do. And part of that is one of the sessions we're going to have on knowing your value. Mika Brzezinski hosts a show called Morning Joe. I think it's on from 6 to 9 in the morning here. And what she talks about is the ability to understand who you are, what your competencies are, and then how to communicate them. If you're not having the ability to communicate who you are, what you do, and how you're special, you'll find yourself always on the back end. So Joy is going to take you through that tonight. So that's one of our exciting parts.
So my name is Joy Simonson. I'm the Associate Director of Shopper Marketing at Mondelēz. What does that mean for people not familiar with our industry? So I bring our brand equity life at Target. So we have fun brands like Dentyne and Sour Patch Kids and Oreo. So I work with Target buyers, bringing that brand equity to life through their vehicles like Cartwheel. I'm not sure, does anyone use Cartwheel here? Couple hands. A wide array of tactics, so it's a lot of fun. If anyone's interested in shopper marketing, give me a call, or I can give you my card. I have a lot of passion for my industry and would love to share my thoughts. And then we have Erin Yearsman. So my partner in crime, Erin, has worked this year to educate me on the ins and outs of working with colleges, and she led the St. Thomas program and did a great job. So.
I'm not
And
sure
then
if
Bliss Pierce, I'm not sure if Bliss was able to come.
I understand there's a traffic light out on one of the
Yes.
streets out here.
So if Bliss joins us, we'll introduce her later. So NEW, what is NEW? NEW is Network of Executive Women. We're a national organization, nonprofit, and our whole mission is around transforming the industry to be more inclusive. So it's broader than just women. We know that women currently make 78% of what the average male makes, irregardless of function, area of the country. But NEW is much broader than that. NEW is around transforming the industry to be inclusive. We know from a lot of research at the senior levels, gender becomes a non-issue. If you talk to the CEOs, the CEO of my company is a woman, her name's Irene Rosenfeld. If you talk to an Irene Rosenfeld or a Donald Trump, gender becomes a non-issue, color becomes a non-issue, ethnicity becomes a non-issue. So how do we enrich women in the marketplace to bring more inclusivity and a better deliverable? And how do we enrich the whole society to become that type of network? So Network of Executive Women is women, but we're more about inclusivity and transforming the marketplace. And we have, in the Twin City region, there's regions all throughout the country. We have over 639 members, and we have a wide array of networking opportunities, some of which are open to college communities. The next one I'm going to put in a plug for is on May 5th. We have a Cinco de Mayo networking mixer event at a local winery. If any of you are interested, the cost is $5. If any of you are interested in attending and networking, go on newonline.org and sign up, and we'd love to see you there. So it's something quick, it's local, you can meet a lot of people in the industry and really develop yourself and enrich yourself. There's other things like we're here now for college outreach. We have learning events, we have webinars online, so there's a huge opportunity to take a moment out of your day. I know you're busy students, a lot of you work full time, but taking an hour out of a Friday to attend a webinar or going to a mixer or attending an evening like this really can help transform how you approach your career and your life. Next slide. Uh-oh.
I know what it is, though.
The battery?
No, you're about to introduce the panelists.
Okay. So our panelists here this evening are Susan Allen, who is the lead of marketing for Schwan's. Come on up, Susan. And our next panelist is Jill Riemenschneider, and she is the Customer Vice President of the Mondelēz Target Team.
If you could take 2 seats in the center, that would be great. As they're getting settled, we also have the opportunity to talk about our Circle of Influence members. And we'll leave that up for the next portion of it,
Okay.
but then we'll describe it. If I could ask our 3 student moderators, Deanna, Hillary, and Angela, to please come up.
Hello. There we go. I'd like to thank Christine and everyone involved in this night, and we'll get going with the panel. Thank you, Jill and Susan, for being here. We really, really appreciate it. So to start off, can you please walk us through a little bit more about your background and career?
Hi, I'm Susan Allen. Hello, everyone. I'm a Senior Director of Marketing for the Schwan Food Company in our retail division. And for those who don't know, Schwan's is a great local company. It's a Minnesota company. And we've got 3 divisions, food service, home service, which is the delivery business, the yellow trucks that you probably all see, and then the retail division in which I work, which is a consumer packaged goods company. Essentially, I run a portfolio of brands in brand marketing. I run our pies and ethnic portfolio. So those are great brands that you might know. Mrs. Smith's wonderful fruit pies and Edwards cream pies, Pagoda ethnic snacks. And then, did you say you want us to talk about our background or just introduction? Very good.
You're just doing, all right, introductions. So I'm Jill Riemenschneider as of 6 weeks ago. So if I slip and say Jill McCarthy, I apologize up front because it was a much shorter, easier name to pronounce. Anyway, at the end of the day, I am the vice president of the Target team for Mondelēz. So I like to say I sell Oreos to Target, which is an awesome job, by the way. It's a lot of fun. And so I run a team of about 11 people. We have about a $300 million business at Target. And so I'm responsible for motivating, training, hiring the people that work the business. And my main job is to get things out of their way and to get out of their way.
Thank you. So our first question is, when you began your career, how did you narrow down a focus area or a functional area? And why did you pursue what you did?
I'll go ahead and start with that. So I will tell you, I didn't focus. I literally kind of fell into my career. I'm being totally honest with you. I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, right across the river. Go Packers. Anyway, so when I was, I had a comprehensive marketing major, management major, so it wasn't even really well defined. And I started at retail. I actually worked at a company called Shopko, which you may or may not have heard of, and I was in retail for the first 6 years of my career. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, do you want to go into sales?" And I'm like, okay. So I started with Procter & Gamble as a sales rep. I had 85 stores. I went out on the streets and took tags off and tried to beat my competition and get displays up in Cub stores and all those things. And I just honestly really fell in love with the industry and stayed in it. So I've been in sales my entire career. I never diverted over to shopper marketing or category management or finance. I will tell you, I think I should have, and in today's world, I highly recommend you do all different types of functions. My number one thing is to make my people general managers so that someday they can manage the whole portfolio, know everything that's going on. But honestly, I didn't have a focus, and I got very lucky and made some very good choices that some of them I made distinctively, and others I just kind of fell into. So I'd be the last one to sit here and say, you have to have a defined path for it to work. You can, and sometimes that works, but you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, I'd say I've evolved into my role. So my role currently is technically it's marketing, but brand management, as you may or may not know, is really a general manager role. You're really sort of the heart and soul of the brand, and you drive both the marketing elements as well as you have P&L responsibility. So I've got responsibility for about a $300 million portfolio, and my background is actually accounting and finance. So I was a bean counter turned marketer, and I was sort of sitting in your chair, and I studied accounting as an undergrad, and I was great in math, so that was was the reason why I chose accounting. I used to do my family's books and write the checks for the household, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do. I took my first accounting course, and that was great. I think over time I just found that I didn't want to just be called into the room for just the financial portion of it. I really wanted more, so I leveraged my accounting skills to go back to business school and career change to marketing/brand management, which is where I am now, and I've been doing that for the last 10 plus years.
Great. So both of you talked about different career moves. What career moves have you found to be the most rewarding?
Yeah, I'll probably just start off with just the move from accounting, so boring, books, into marketing, which I figured out where the fun was. And it's funny, I was in your shoes, and I always felt like the accountants were the fun, we were kind of the smart people, and the marketers were kind of like, there's really no substance there. And I found that there was a ton of substance. So I'd say that was the most rewarding. It was very risk-taking. You don't find a lot of financial folks in the marketing world, but I find that it is really great background for what we call brand management, and so that's been fun. And so I was very fortunate to get recruited by General Mills directly out of my MBA program at UCLA. I'm originally from California, and so they sort of moved me out here on an internship and was able to land a full-time job, and it's been history ever since in marketing.
So I started, like I said, at Procter & Gamble. I was there 14 years, and I was going to be a lifer, because being a lifer at Procter & Gamble is a really good thing. They have a phenomenal profit-sharing program, I'm just telling you. So it was great, and they have a phenomenal program for training and everything else. So I thought, I'm never leaving. And all of a sudden, I was down in Bentonville, Arkansas, with 2 little girls and a husband, and going, oh my gosh, I'm working so many hours. I'm going crazy, and by the way, I want to get back to Minneapolis. Now, in hindsight, eventually I'd probably like to go back down south because it's warmer down there. But anyway, that's the decision that I made, was to leave the company. And it was actually extremely scary. But I will tell you, when I did, I came up here and I called on Target. I got a whole brand new experience. I went into J&J, so I got into a whole different industry, Johnson & Johnson. And what it made it easy to do was to make other changes, take other risks. And so I will tell you that that has been some of the greatest thing, is to make a change has actually led me, I don't think ever in my wildest imagination had you asked me, will you be a vice president someday? I'd like, yeah, no. But because I was able to make some changes, it did happen. So that's what probably was the first one, led me to be able to make other ones.
So you both talked about making changes and taking risks. How did you know it was time to make those changes?
Yeah.
I think for me, I was bored. I think I knew that I was really good at accounting, but I wasn't being challenged. And accounting is really all about looking back. And I did make a sort of a small shift in between into finance. That's a very natural progression for accountants, and finance is more forward-looking. And I helped take a company through an IPO, Korn Ferry, which is one of the largest executive search firms in the world. And that was really great. But then I found that it still wasn't enough, that that still was more the financial portion of forward-looking, and I really wanted more overall general business management, which is when I started to network, and I researched marketing in this whole sort of general management, brand management area. And I had friends out in California who worked for Nestle and Mattel, and they were sort of P&L owners of their brands. And just basically through networking, learned about it, decided to go back to business school. So I think I was bored and knew I wanted more.
And I'd say it depends. It depends. Sometimes I've made changes for my career, and to the point of wanting something new, more exciting. Other times I made them for my family. Honestly, I had an opportunity. I was with Kellogg's, and I dissolved my role. I was the VP of the Super Value team. At that time, Super Value was going through numerous changes, and I said, you don't need a VP on this business anymore. And I basically laid out to my manager what it should look like going forward, and he moved to that, and he said, all right, I've got an opportunity for you. You can go be the VP of the Safeway team, which is, if some of you know, is out in California. And I had a daughter who was a sophomore in high school who would have killed me. And I said, that's not going to work for me. And at that time, I got very lucky, and I got a call and said, hey, do you want to go talk to Mondelēz? I'm like, okay, first of all, telling me what Mondelēz is, because nobody knows what it is. We're trying. And I went there, and I've been there ever since, and it was a great move. But that was a personal move, whereas others in my career have been professional career moves. So I'd say it depends upon where you're at in your life.
So how do you define success?
I think success is a lot of different ways, frankly. For me, success is seeing, at this point in my career, is seeing my people succeed. I really someday want to work for somebody who I've helped move up the chain. So at this time, that's success. success is the partnership with my customer. I have a great partnership with Target, and we do a lot of fun things together. That's success. And at the end of the day, the numbers are always a measure of success, but it's way broader than the numbers. And my final thing I think on success is, do you like what you're doing? Are you fulfilled? Do you get up and get excited? Not every day. Don't get me wrong. There's days I'm like, oh my gosh, really? But at the end of the day, like what you're doing, because that's what it's all about. You spend a lot of hours in those doors. And so success means personal fulfillment and personal happiness, along with the other things I mentioned.
Yeah, I'll just agree with you on that. You've got to love what you do. That's just the baseline. I think for me, it's really about making a difference and making sure that I'm coming to work and I'm leaving a legacy and I'm leaving the business better than when I started it. I think it's also important about, like what you said around success through your people and making sure that people succeed. I mean, because ultimately, I think when you get to a certain level, you really don't do much by yourself. You're doing everything through your team. And so when they succeed, then the entire business succeeds. And I think probably the final part is just success from a holistic standpoint, from a work-life balance. You want to obviously be fulfilled at work, but you get to certain points in life where it's as important to have that successful family life. So making sure that you've got that great balance.
All right, next we're going to talk about some leadership in your guys' roles. The first question we have is, what leadership characteristic do you find essential in today's leaders?
I'll start. I think talent is very important. So being able to recruit, identify, attract, and retain talent is very important. I think just leadership skills in terms of what's your vision for whatever it is that you're doing, having a vision and knowing where you want to go, because people will follow you if you sort of have a vision. And then prioritization, I think, is really big. We're sort of in this age of, there's a million different things going on. You're multitasking, but at the same time, you have to be able to prioritize for yourself and really for your team.
I would say in addition to those, because I totally agree with what you're saying, I think empathy. Empathy for your team, empathy for your customer, empathy for your people. I think empathy is huge. I think team building is huge. Being able to bring a team together and get them all to work together, because not everybody sees eye to eye every day. And so I try to do a lot by letting my team make decisions. In fact, I had one gentleman that worked for me, and he goes, we're in meetings and you just don't make your point of view. I go, if my point of view's been made by you or someone else, I don't need to stand up and go, yeah, I agree, or make it. So it's really getting your team to work together. And then having empathy was what I mean there is your team is going to do more for you if you care about them as an individual and as a person. I mean, I know what's going on in my team's life for the most part. I know their kids' names, their husbands' names, their in-laws, if they like them, if they don't. And you know what? It works. And if you do that and build a team along with the skills that Susan pointed out, in my opinion, that makes a great leader.
Next question is, being a woman in a leadership position, did you or have you ever found that you were held to a different set of standards or expectations?
I can go this way. You're all expecting me to say yes. And you know what? I don't think so. I really don't. First of all, I got to tell you right now, I got a new boss 3 months ago. I've been in the business, I'm giving away my age somewhat, but you probably figured it out, over 20 years, to almost over 25 years. I have the best boss manager I've ever had in my entire career, and I wouldn't trade him for the world. And he treats me no different than my colleagues, and I appreciate it. And by the way, I have 2 male colleagues, so I do like to have a little bit of fun with that. But at the end of the day, I don't think so. As long as you show up and do your job, and I think in today's society, we're getting better at soft skills being more important, at some of the things I bring. Now, do I change myself when I go to work? A little bit. I round myself off. I make myself a little smoother than I am at home. But at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I'm appreciated for that, and I deliver the results. And at the end of the day, if you deliver the results and you do it the right way, in an ethical way, you don't beat people up to get there, don't stomp on them, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, because that's what people want. They want people to get results and do it in the right way. So I personally have not. And now it's up to you.
And I'll just say, Jill, that you're smooth all the time. You're authentically smooth. You don't have to change yourself for work. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Jill, is that I've been very fortunate to have wonderful bosses, too, over time that I felt, treated me just like a person of the team. And it's, like you said, it's about results, it's about delivering on it. What I will say, though, is that I found that I've had to go out of my comfort zone in terms of marketing myself. My job is marketing, so I should be very good at this, right? What we find is, women get so focused on driving results, and sorry, there's men in the room too, we may get so focused on driving results that you have to also remember for those positions that are coming up and just being much more proactive. I find that sometimes other people are better at doing that than myself, so I have to make sure that I'm putting myself out there, communicating what I'm doing really well for that next role, if that's what I'm looking for.
Next, we have the millennial generation has been labeled as highly motivated generation. Often we feel like we have to achieve a high level of standards very quickly at a young age, and we want to see if you guys have any advice on if we aren't feel like we're moving fast enough, how to handle that.
Yeah, I think every generation's been that way. Gen X, Gen Y, like we can't get there fast enough. I think it's really important just to know where you want to go. And having those key objectives really in front of you and know what you want to do sort of short term, 6 months to 1 year, and long term. And you're going to get impatient, but make sure you're accomplishing your objective or have a plan to get to those results. We work in companies where we have things like individual development plans or IDPs, and making sure that really you're aligned with your manager on your growth plan. And if you're, 2 days behind getting promoted, that's not a big deal. My first boss was wonderful at General Mills. He told me that he was in a class of like 50 people, and he was the last one to get promoted to manager, but he was the first one to get promoted to director and VP. And that was because, it's important to know that you want to make sure you don't move too fast. Once you get to that next level, you want to be successful. And so sometimes if your boss tells you it's another 6 months, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a long time. So think about the short term, but think about the long term. And don't feel like, you always want to be making progress towards your goal, but don't feel like it's got to be tomorrow, because hopefully your manager's working with you on your long-term goal.
I agree with that. And I think, too, it's not all upward mobility. I talked about general manager skills, and it's going lateral. There is nothing wrong with going lateral. In fact, Joy, who was up here earlier, she used to do my category management work on the team and did a phenomenal job at it. She had it mastered. She could probably have done her job in about 20 hours a week, and she might have, and I may not know that. But she went way out of her comfort zone and went into shopper marketing, has no marketing background. And I got to tell you what, she came to me after the first couple months going, what have I done? And it wasn't a promotion, it was a lateral move. Now she's a year in, she's doing a phenomenal job, and guess what? She's learned a whole new skill set that takes her to a whole new level. So I know you want to move quickly and you want to go, but you got to also talk about lateral moves that make you then, when I look at people, I've got an opening on my team right now, I've got a young man that's moving into a phenomenal opportunity for him. So I have an opening, and I'm looking for somebody that hasn't done just sales. It's a sales role. I want somebody who has done sales and category management, finance. I want supply chain, something else. My ideal candidate has that. My ideal candidate isn't me. That's all sales all day long. So you've got to move strategically. I agree you need to have an objective, but frankly, you don't necessarily always know what's there. And by the way, does that role even exist today? I mean, we had a gentleman out talking about e-commerce yesterday. Those roles are just going to continue to evolve. So, like I said, enjoy the ride. It's a lot of fun, but don't be so focused on the next role that you're not focusing on the current role, because that's the surest way not to get to the next role.
As the leader, have you had any experience with unmotivated employees? And if so, how did you inspire them?
So you want to? All right, we talked about this one. So the answer is yes, of course. You've always got somebody who's not motivated. There are obviously people who are in jobs that they shouldn't be in those jobs, not because they're not good at them, because it's not a good job fit. I mean, there are certain people that should be bean counters that are in marketing and vice versa. It's just the way it is. So how do you motivate them? Number one is personally, I'm very honest with people. And I literally have looked somebody in the face and said, I'm sorry, this is not the right job. You don't want to be in this job, so let's help you find something you like. But by the time while you're in here, what motivates you? What makes you tick? Rarely is it a paycheck, by the way. Is it recognition in front of your peers? Is it a special project that you're working. What is it? Is it mentoring? That's how you help motivate them, by finding out what motivates them. But at the end of the day, I will also say there's something to be said about job fit and making sure people are in the right job for them to keep them motivated and wanting to do things.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think the key is really knowing what is their key motivation and why are they not motivated. So I think having that personal relationship so that you can be honest and really understand what's going on with them, whether it's personal, sometimes it's just, hey, got some personal stuff going on that maybe making them unmotivated, or maybe it's the role. I had a recent situation similarly where the person I was working with, she had wonderful, great skills, but they weren't specifically a fit for this role. So I helped her find another role, in another division, which is really important. So I think really knowing what the motivations are, being able to be honest and transparent about it, and helping them move to the right place.
Great, thank you. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about personal and professional development. How would you suggest young professionals seek out networking connections, and when do you find to be an appropriate time to reach out to mentors?
You guys probably do this one better than us, because this is the age of social media, right? I sort of grew up through the college and MBA experience without social media, so I think it's just important to make those connections and really be brave and meet as many people as you can. I'm actually an introvert. A lot of people are surprised by that, and what that means is I really have strong relationships with a few people in sort of in every area of my life, and I'm not sort of like this broad person, even though I'm social, but I'm not. I like to make connections with a few people, and so I had to learn, throughout my career as time progressed, that it's a small world. So whatever industry you pick, whether it's accounting or marketing, it's a very small world. You'll find that the people at different levels, like in consumer packaged goods, there's a finite group of people, and you want to start to over time know who all those people are, and as you're making connections, to continue the connection. So I think my learning was that it's not just about those few relationships. It's about making sure that I keep them going, and keeping those networking relationships going. And I think with social media, it makes it a lot easier now. I think being on LinkedIn, being on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, it makes it a lot easier for you guys to just have those quick little connections along the way.
Yep. No, networking is hard. This was the skit we did last week. Networking is hard. And I'm on the other end of the spectrum, if you hadn't surmised. I'm an extrovert off the chart. So I love talking to people. And it's really getting yourself out of the comfort zone. I will tell you, the jobs I've gotten because I knew somebody. The people that work for me, at the end of the day, I handpicked some of those from organizations where I met them at. So it is critical in your career, in my opinion, to go out there and meet as many people as you can, even if you're going, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. Because guess what? The person you're talking to doesn't either. So really go out there, put yourself out there, number one. And as far as a mentor, it's great to have a mentor. I don't have a formal mentor. I mentor probably 6 to 8 people right now, and I really enjoy it. And you know what? I have one. She calls me. She's like, I've got a problem with my boss. Can I set up some time with you? I'm like, perfect. Or she says, hey, I'm looking at another job opportunity. And she sends me an email. I'm like, put it on my calendar. Or I've had people call me out of the blue and said, so-and-so just got displaced from Target. Can you have some time to meet with that? Absolutely. So just put yourself out there, and there are people out there that love to mentor. I happen to be one of them. Find people like that, and you will definitely build your network, which will help you build your career. And to Susan's point, it is a small, small world. So on that note, don't ever burn a bridge, because I guarantee you they will show up in your life somewhere.
And I'll just build on that and just say networking is really two-way. You're the expert at this. It's not just about, you and trying to think about what you may need over time, but, making those true connections and being transparent and authentic with all those connections, and trying to make sure that you're offering things as well as it being a two-way street. I think the same with mentorship. A lot of people think about mentors as, hey, this is about me learning from that person, and there's a ton of that. But I learned a ton from the people who I mentee or who I mentor as well. They bring thoughts and insights around my industry, and so think about that as you got any mentoring relationships or you're trying to develop them, is bring something to the table as well. You've got 2 things to talk about, but you want to make sure you're offering something else, an insight about that industry or what have you.
To speak a little bit more about mentorships, our world today is full of noise and distractions. So how do you ensure that a mentor is actually working to develop your career, and make sure it doesn't get like overly personal?
Well, I'd say that it's great that you want to know your mentor personally, and I think that'll help them. That'll just help the relationship be even stronger. But I think being organized and treating the mentor relationship like you do anything in business is having objectives for it. I know the people who I've mentored over time, the ones who do really well, they'll come prepared with questions and like, hey, we're talking about this. And next month over coffee, I'd love to talk about these couple things. One, it helps keep the mentor focused of like, okay, this is, they've got a really busy schedule and helps them really focus, kind of what insight to bring, but it also makes sure that you get in what you need out of it. And so just being a little prepared and planful can help.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add on that, but what I do want to talk about is one thing that we have, and you might even be able to do something here as students, is we have what we call mentor circles. And so what we do is we have a group that gets together called 3 or 4 of us. So one person leads it, and then we have 3 or 4 other individuals. Then we go have lunch together or breakfast, whatever. And to Susan's point, it's a back and forth relationship. I mean, we had 2 very young women in our organization do social media for our entire office. And I mean, there's guys in the back of the room going, "Oh my gosh, look at that! I can do emojis." I mean, they'd never heard of it, and you guys live in that world, and not so it is a reverse thing. But a circle gives you an opportunity to not only mentor one-on-one, but to mentor around a circle of people that have all different skills. So that's another thing that I might encourage you to do from a mentoring standpoint.
The other thing I'd say is it was actually a mistake early on in my career is actually not just going out and asking for a mentor. Oftentimes, that's what we think, but I think the mentor relationships form by just the connection. And so, finding someone that you have things in common with, like network with a lot of different people, and you'll find the ones where you really have a strong connection with. You'll end up doing lunch, and you end up doing lunch the next month, and ultimately they become your mentor. Early on, I just asked someone out the blue, like I thought this person was on paper the best for me, and I said, "Will you be my mentor?" And we started having lunch, and it was really kind of awkward. We just didn't have as much in common as I thought, and I had to sort of politely back away. And so for me, it was just, kind of see how things go before you kind of do any official ask.
What is the single best piece of advice that you can give a young person beginning their career?
I'll take that one. Take risks. Take risks. Do things that you're not comfortable doing. Change, move to different companies, move to different customers. Calling on Target versus calling on Walmart versus calling on Super Value are 3 very distinct things I've done, but they've changed. Change what you're doing, shopper marketing, customer marketing, finance, like I said. Take risks. So we just got a brand new president of sales. Her name is Val Oswald. She's 42 years old with 2 young children, and she's the president of sales for the U.S. She started in finance. She went over to supply chain. She took some funky project they put her on. She went into sales. She took risks, and it has paid off beautifully. So my number one thing is take risks. You can find another job. If you are good and you are dedicated and you work hard, you can take risks and find a different job and do phenomenal. The reason I'm at the level I am is I changed and did some different things. I moved. I took my family to Cincinnati. I took my family to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I brought my family back here. I did a lot of things that made sense some days, and other days I was like, what am I doing? Take risks. It paid off. Educated, of course. Educated risks.
Completely agree. What I would say, though, is know who you are. Really know your own personal brand. At the heart and soul, what do you do better than anyone else? I ran the Orville Redenbacher business, which was a local business here for a while, and that's really what Orville Redenbacher always said. He did one thing, he did popcorn really well, and do it better than anyone else. So that's what I say for you, and then have an objective as well. So you do X, Y, Z better, and always sort of know where you're going at all times.
To wrap things up in development, is a work and life balance something that you struggle with? And if so, how do you maintain that?
All right, we had to agree. We agreed in the green room that I would take this one because, first of all, we had a speaker this week that work-life balance doesn't exist because it's just life. Your life consists of work. Your life consists of home. Your life consists of life. like sometimes work comes home and home goes to work, right? I personally don't struggle with it, and people probably are surprised at it. So first of all, we have 4 children between the two of us, all right? And so 2 of them are still at home. Number 1, I teach classes at the YMCA. I have my full-time job, and I take classes at Rasmussen College doing something just for the fun of it, okay? So I have a pretty full life, and I love it. I have very early in my career put up boundaries that I didn't allow work to cross. And they weren't just when I had kids, and they weren't just when I had a husband. I'll never forget, I was with Procter & Gamble. I was very, very young in my career. I was all of like 27, 28 years old. And I had 2 managers come out to ride with me, because that's what they like to do, is they come and they observe what you're doing and try to see how educated you are and if you know what you're doing. And he goes, all right, let's go to one more store. And I go, I have to be at the Y at 5:30. And the look he gave me was like, are you kidding me? What is wrong with you? But I set those parameters very early in my career. And luckily for me, overall, I've had bosses that have respected that. I do the same thing for my team. I am not, you have to have your butt in the seat to know you're working. As long as you are delivering the results, I don't care if you're working at 3 a.m. and are off between 10 and 12 in the afternoon. If that's when Target doesn't need to see you, I have no problem with that. So part of it is setting your own parameters for yourself, setting them for your team. As long as you deliver the results, I think you can have that. So that's what I did and continue to do.
She's got the magic answer, guys. I struggle with this. I think it's always been a struggle. I think during certain points in time, I've got a little 5-year-old. So for me, it's about 2 things. A, trying to find time for exercise, and B, trying to find time for my little guy. And, when I know things are off is when, I haven't worked out, a couple days in the week, or if I'm getting home and I don't have that quality time that I need with my family. So that's where I have to draw boundaries. And, I think the challenge, the plus and minus with schedules like what you just said is you can work anytime. You can come in late. That's sort of how I work as well. But the challenge is that there's blurred lines because work can start later, work can start earlier. And so I have to make sure that I'm prioritizing the right things and have to make those key decisions to really make sure that I set my boundaries. But it's an ongoing struggle. I'd say that there's different points in time where you lean in. I'd say when I was earlier in my career, I leaned more into my career and I worked a lot. And that was fine. And now I have to kind of cut work off. So, sometimes I don't like doing it. There's deadlines and I may have to have some partnership with, help with some of the work that I'm doing. But now I'm more lean in balance and family. And so I have to make sure that you communicate those boundaries clearly with who you're working with and having the confidence and taking those risks and doing that and say, hey, this is what I'm all about. So it comes easier clearly for some people than others. But
Excellent, thank you.
So those are all the prepared questions we have. Are we opening up to the audience? Does anyone have a question?
Extra points. Yes. Is anybody getting extra credit if they ask points? Ask questions. Yeah, go.
Have there been any specific situations where you struggled in your career? Just listening to you, everything sounds like it's smooth and you know where you're at. Tell us about some of the obstacles and struggles that you.
Okay, so the question, if you guys didn't hear, was have there been any struggles in my career or in our careers? The answer is absolutely yes. First of all, when I was young, I did stupid things like back in the day, we used to have team meetings, and then after the meeting was over, you had the after party, so you'd go into the bar, and one time I set my credit card down, and $600 later, I went, oh my gosh, what am I going to do, right? So dumb things like that, which are simple to fix, okay? There's been struggles where when I was with Johnson & Johnson, we merged with Pfizer. I was up triple indice. I was feeling good, and guess what? I got let go, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I just lost my job, and I had 2 children to support, and I didn't know what I was going to do." Luckily, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. But I will tell you, one of the lowest points of my life was the fact that I just didn't know what I was going to do, and I was beside myself because it hadn't happened to me, and I didn't know how to handle it. There's been tough times with customers where I've made mistakes. Here's the thing: learn from them, don't repeat them, and move on. And don't. We had the speaker we had this last week had the most phenomenal I'm going to steal an analogy. She had a Barbie doll wrapped in a roll of toilet paper, right? You're like, what? So every square of toilet paper is an hour of your life. So if something happens to you at 10 a.m., are you still going to be thinking about it at 4 p.m.? Because now you've wasted 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, and nothing's gained from it. And I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago. Things happen in your career, in your life. Learn, don't do them again, and move on. So that's what I would say. It has not been always a nice, smooth, lovely ride.
Yeah, ditto. I was just having a conversation with Kim, who I was riding over with today, and just how every day you've got to make sure that you're your best, your best self. And I was just telling her about a meeting earlier today where I just felt like I didn't represent, the position as strongly as I should have, and did I back up and make the right compelling points. So I think every day you're trying to be the best person you are. I think I've had situations over the years where I've learned from people who I've developed and quite frankly picked up good leadership skills. So one of the best times I find good times to get feedback is when people are rotating to another desk from my team. And one of the best feedback that I got is, someone told me like, Susan, I feel like, you don't really necessarily give recognition. And I was shocked by that because I give, emails and communication and outward recognition to the team always, like so-and-so team did this and so-and-so team did that and this team did this, but I didn't mention the people. And so the one piece of advice I got was, so-and-so team with so-and-so leading it and so-and-so on the team. That was just a little piece of advice that made me a better leader. I always recognize, but have to recognize the specific people. Early on in my career, I didn't ask for a job that I was clearly qualified for, and I thought I would just get the job because, hey, I'm doing a great job. Everyone knows it, right? And because I wasn't in the door asking for it, the job went to someone else, and I ended up sort of lobbying for it and just saying, talk to me about this. And before it was actually announced, I was able to convince them that I wanted the job, and they didn't actually know that I wanted the job. So I had to go back in and do that. So just all kinds of things that you learn throughout the process, and you really pick up those leadership skills along the way. And so just being as self-aware as you can, getting as much feedback as you can along the way is always helpful, and just makes you a better you.
And that's a big one. Ask for feedback. Whenever I do reviews on my people, I'm giving them feedback, obviously, and I always say, what can I be doing to help you? What can I be doing better? Ask for feedback. It's not always easy to hear, but if it's given in the right way, it's because people care about you and want you to be more successful.
I was going to say networking is always a good one. I mean, really know where, what your skill sets are, and folks in the industry. So I think starting from, if you want to do accounting, so make sure you're talking to people at all the accounting firms locally in the area, and that's always a good place to start.
So another one, especially in our world, the CPG world, consumer packaged goods world, there's recruiters. There's very good recruiters. So over the 2 year, and there's some not so good recruiters, let's be honest, but there's some very good recruiters. And I have like three. I have 3 on speed dial. And so there's been times I've called them and said, is there anything out there? Just curious. There's been times I've said, hey, so-and-so might be looking for a job, and helped others. And then to your point, I think networking, honestly, when I'm looking to fill a role right now, the first thing I do is go through my Rolodex in my brain. You guys probably don't even know what a Rolodex is. Anyway, I go through this little file system that's in my brain, and I say, who do I know that could fit into this role, and who would work? And then I go on LinkedIn, and I literally look at all my connections, and I go, oh, I forgot about so-and-so, and I reach out. So I would say, a good recruiter is good to have on speed dial, friends, and then connections through the industry.
Yeah. And I think you can't underestimate that. I mean, I think all my jobs, with the exception of my first job out of undergrad and my first job out of business school, I got through connections and keeping those networks alive.
This gentleman had a question.
Now, my question is regarding both of your industries where both of you are. We had a big recession in 2007, 2008. How are you guys able to turn around your respective companies, and was there pressure to produce results or profitability?
Yeah. I mean, the good news about working in food is people always have to eat. So, I mean, so I think we take advantage of those facts. And, you know, I think at that time I was working on some businesses where healthy was really important. We were working on, I think I was working on snacks, and snacking is really important, but healthy snacking. And a lot of the buzz around 100 calories were the areas that we were pushing on, you know, low fat, 100 calories. And so, you know, trying to find the trends that are going on despite sort of what's going on from a macro standpoint. Whatever it is that you're working on to kind of drive growth. And so I think with that, we were able to pull off some decent performance.
Yeah, I agree. The food industry is a good place to be when there's a recession. It just is. People still eat Oreos and, you know, have a nice glass of wine at night to get them through it, so that helps. But honestly, what you're kind of alluding to is as companies make cutbacks, right? How do you make sure that you're relevant and you're doing so? How do you make yourself stand out? I think Susan alluded to it earlier. How do you promote yourself, not bragging about yourself, but making sure people know what you're doing, so that when they're looking at who needs to get let go because of that your hopefully name isn't on there. And if your name is on that list, then you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you keep going. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, making sure that you're relevant and doing something that the company feels that you can do solely better than maybe your 5 peers next to you.
Going back to a little bit about the team development aspect, I was just curious if you could share some strategies to help progressing someone on your team who might be a disengaged.
So I can share one. This doesn't go back. So I have an employee on my team who's she's actually a very bright young woman. She really is. She's very smart. She's been with our company for 6 years. We brought her in as what we call an MDA, which is marketing development associate, something. Anyway, it's a fast track program, right? And she's just not engaged because, frankly, I don't think she's in the right job. I really don't. And so we've done a couple things. Number one, tried to help get her some other things to do, right? Try to understand what motivates her, what she would like to do. And frankly, I don't think she really knows what she'd like to do. And so honestly, trying to really understand what motivated her, what she likes, and it's still really, honestly, it's not working. And so I had a really blunt conversation with her 5 days ago. She asked me about the role that's open on my team. She goes, should I apply for it? And I said, no, you shouldn't. I go, because you're not who I'm looking for that role. And I go, and let me be really candid with you. If I were you, I'd be out looking for a different job because I don't think you'll go any further in our company. I mean, so there's ways to motivate people, but there's also ways to be really honest with people and let them know that this is all you're going to get here because this doesn't fit you and you need to be happy in what you're doing. Now, on the other side, I'll have people who are unengaged simply because something's not right in their world. I have another individual on my team, had a brand new boyfriend, just moved in together, and I called her in, I'm like, you were such a rock star. What just happened the last 2 months? You know, I get you fell in love, but come on. And you know, honestly, it really, all she needed was kind of a kick in the pants. And she went, you're absolutely right. This is important and I need to make this happen. So that's what works for me is I'm kind of brutally honest. And it works because they know that even the woman that I told, I don't think this is right for you, I said, you know, this is really hard for you to hear, and I'm really sorry that you have to hear it, but it's the right thing for you to hear. And she goes, you said it in a really nice way, and I get that you care about me. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's what it was. I care about her as a person, and she's not going to be happy there. So care about your people, understand what motivates your people, and be brutally honest with your people, and I think that will motivate your people, or it does for me, works for me.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I had the exact same example, the one I used earlier, just around the disengaged employee. And she was awesome. She had great skill sets, but it just did not fit that specific role. And so honesty is really a gift. Honesty and feedback is a gift. I just said, you know, you would be so much better. Have you ever thought about, you know, X, Y, Z? And, you know, at first she didn't really understand it. Like, I've been told all along that this is a good area for me. And then after we did a couple meetings where I tried to explain to her sort of what we were looking for, she said, when you said what you said, like, now I understand what you mean by that. And we were able to migrate her into a role that fit her a lot better. But I think honesty is really important, having relationships with your team so that you know what's going on. I had, frankly, a woman who was pregnant and, who was just disengaged just because she was thinking about the baby. And I worked with her for a little while, just say, hey, so-and-so, let's talk about this. How you doing? And, we basically tried to focus in on the things that were most important for her to do before she left for maternity leave, because she was feeling a little overwhelmed. And so I just said, look, I understand. And so we kind of focused her schedule to where it made sense for her. And because she was an awesome employee and she was just at a different career stage, and we had to recognize that and still keep her motivated. So having that relationship and then the transparency and honest feedback is sort of like the feedback that you give to your kids because you're doing it in love, right? But you want to tell them what you're seeing, but you want to help them be better. So that's sort of how I approached it.
Hey, just quickly, I just wanted to, let me get out of your way here, hold on, without strangling you. I just wanted to, they mentioned this event we went to last week, and you asked what you need to do to connect and network. The event we went to, can you picture her doing a skit? Okay. And it worked. I mean, it was great. But here's what happened. We were able to take, because of, let's see, it was Erin and Joy and Kim, said, can you bring 4 students from Concordia to act as ambassadors for us? And Renata, thank you for coming, by the way, one of the professors in the business program said, I've got 4. Here's what happened. They each sat at a table, and you know what came back? And I'm sorry, Susan, they said, they talked to us. The women were friendly. They exchanged business cards, and every one of them said, treated them here, what was the word, Renata, professional?
Treated us like we were professionals.
Yeah. But here's the key. The women all said to them, here's my card. Feel free to call me. Will you call? They're ready, and not 6 months from now, when the relationship is established. That ability to be able to find opportunities. Kim talked about Joy, the networking event on May 5th. You were invited. Will you go? I know it gets hard. We're doing lots of things. But please take advantage of that. And feel free to ask anyone on the faculty, what are some good ways to be able to help you network as well? We set this up, by the way, and Joy was instrumental in making sure we were able to do it this way. We have half of the circles of influence are going to be about coming out of college and finding your first job. The other half are for our MBA students and our graduates who have the opportunity to say, what's next? Where do I go? Am I a millennial who's supposed to have 8 careers? Where would I take it? And that's what we want you to really think about, because it is you. We can't do it for you, but you can. And I know one thing, from being engaged with all of you, you have such talents. You have such abilities. Please don't sell yourself short. Put yourself out there. Jill said it best, take a risk. And you'll find that risk really comes back. So with that, we're going to take a 5-minute break. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Nancy if you could come up. We have gifts for our lovely contestants. Susan, thank you so very much for coming. It was a pleasure. Your delight.
Very nice.
Jill, thank you as well. I just sat and when you were talking about the teams and what they're like, we've both been there. So it's kind of fun to watch. All right, we'll take a